Hey, good morning. Good to see you today. If you're wondering where I am, I'm over here. I'm so glad you're here. We're doing something a little bit different to start off today, and you should have received a QR code. There's one on the chair near you, and we are going to ask you to participate with us, so please get out your phone. I'm not offended if you get out your phone while I preach. I would love for you to get out your phone right now. We have something really fun for you to participate in because we want to make sure that as we talk about burnout, that we're answering the right questions, that we're saying the right things, and your feedback is going to help us do that today. So grab your phone, scan the code. We're going to have a couple fun things to figure out together, and then we're going to jump in and we're going to ask you to help us see what you think about burnout and how it may impact the way that we discuss this topic moving forward. So, are you ready? Let's jump in. Here is question number one. Let's just get started. Let's get a feel for Mentimeter, see how it works. What is your favorite type of candy? So give us your answer there. Some of y'all are already going. Good. I knew what the answer was going to be before we started, and I knew it was going to be the wrong answer that got all the winners here. So chocolate, it looks like y'all are winning in real time. You keep going down a little bit, but sour is the right answer. I'm sorry. So, hey, next question. This one is more important, actually. This is more important. Who is going to win today, the Chiefs or the Bucks? We do have a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan on our staff. I will not tell you who it is, but I did ask Christian to zip up his jacket. So if you want to find out who that is, what do you guys think? Let's see. Let's give you 5 more seconds to vote. 4, 3, 2, 1. What are the results here? The winner is the Chiefs. Of course it is. All right. So now you know how Mentimeter works. It's time for us to jump in and really see what you think about these questions. So how many hours of sleep are you getting per night? Some of you are getting 5 or less. Looks like 7 is going to be the winner. 6, 7. Wow, okay. You 8-hour asleep people and 5-hour or less people are definitely the minority today. All right. There's something to be said for how much sleep we get. I bet we'll talk about that somewhere along the way. How about the next question? Which is, I experienced the stress of my life taking a physical toll on my body. You got yes, no, or sometimes. What do you think about that? I had a feeling that yes was going to have lots of blue dots. Yes? Hey, those sometimes folks, good for you, and no, wow, teach us some lessons. So maybe you should be preaching this series. I don't know. Okay, yeah, let's see about the next one. Spiritual health. There are 3 here. You get to rate them strongly disagree to strongly agree. My spiritual life is fulfilling. I am satisfied with my spiritual rhythms, and I feel regular connection with God. Go ahead and weigh in there. Let us know what you think and how your spiritual life is doing and feeling. If you're watching with us online, I hope you're participating as well. You sure can. If you are watching this after the fact, a replay, you can just look at the results. They're going to be good to see here. So, good. So we're feeling good spiritually today. We're over the 3 mark. We're leaning towards agree. We'll see what that says about the rest of the topics that we look at here. What about the next topic here? Which is going to be relational health. Again, strongly disagree, I strongly agree. I have meaningful friendships that improve the quality of my life. My work-life balance hinders my relationships. I feel overwhelmed balancing my job and family responsibilities. Where are we at here? We've got lots of friends. We're feeling okay about our balance for the most part, although the family and job is kind of tending towards being a little overwhelmed, which is understandable in the day and age we live in, right? That's not surprising information. All right. So what about the next one? This is going to be our emotional and mental health. I'm satisfied with my mental health. I regularly feel mentally exhausted or anxious, and I'm capable of managing my emotions. We're going strongly disagree to strongly agree here. Kind of riding it out in the middle, folks. Satisfied, strongly agree, capable of managing my emotions, doing good. That's awesome. Good. All right. Moving on to our next topic, which is financial health. Hey, just a reminder, this is 100% anonymous. So anything you enter here, we're not going to follow up with you and be like, hey, tell us about your financial worry, nothing like that. So give us your answers here. You have a good budgeting system. I'm living beyond my means. I constantly worry about my finances. Got your responses locked in there. All right. We got some folks who are financially conscientious, making sure that you're doing what you need to with your money. All right, how about this last question here? Where do you feel burnout the most? Is it physical, spiritual, relational, emotional, or financial? Where are you feeling it? Let me know, because I think that's an important piece as we put all of this together and continue the conversation. So it looks like the emotional is going to be the highest rated here. We're going to come back to this screen at the very end. Make sure you get your vote locked in there. Let us know about where you're experiencing burnout the most, because here's what we know. Research in 2022 says that 7 out of 10 employees are feeling burned out in their current job. That's not surprising, is it? I mean, it's kind of post-COVID. That's the way things have been going. Interestingly, that number is increased to 84% when you talk about millennials and their burnout with their jobs. You may have heard of something called the Great Resignation. Did you hear about that? Or quiet quitting being led by the millennials, trying to find balance in their work and their life. Interestingly, the Great Resignation has happened. Millennials changed jobs more than any other generation. And 94% of the layoffs that have happened post-COVID have been millennials who changed jobs during that time. So that idea that what's on the other side, the grass being greener, doesn't always work itself out. In fact, we know that the stress that we feel impacts us regardless of the job that we're in. 3 in 5 people, I think our numbers probably bear this out, said they feel the physical effects of stress on their bodies. And what we find, no doubt, is that there are some areas of life where we feel stress, right? I mean, you feel stress at times in your life. And these warning signs, if left unchecked, will lead us down a path of unhealth, a path that takes us to burnout. Now, I just preached this message in the chapel. A few minutes ago, I wrapped up. And as I was looking at the crowd, I noticed the demographic was a little different than this one. And I said, how many of you are retired? And about 99% of them raised their hands, right? A bunch of retired people. But here's the thing. Burnout isn't just about our jobs. It applies to so many areas. Yes, you hear it in the workforce, right? I mean, healthcare workers, they're burnt out. Why are they burnt out? They're burnt out because there are fewer of them, and the demands on them are even greater. Teachers are experiencing burnout, right? Why are people leaving teaching? Because kids have lost 2 years of public education. They're trying to catch the kids up. And then you see retail workers that are leaving their jobs. Why? Because people act like they do out in public. It is hard to be a public-facing employee. We hear it regularly, but what exactly is burnout? How do we want to define burnout today? Well, burnout is this: when the demands on you are greater than the resources available to you. That's when you experience burnout. It happens in our work, yes, but as we just saw, it happens in many other areas of our lives too. Our spiritual life, our emotional life, our relational life, our physical life, and our financial life. In all of these ways, we can experience burnout. And if you're sitting there today and you're wondering, I wonder if I'm experiencing burnout, I have a little test that we can take together. Psychologist Christina Masloch put together this list of things that may indicate that you are experiencing burnout. There are 3 factors. Number 1, exhaustion. If you're constantly wiped out emotionally, physically, then and even rest and sleep don't help you feel replenished, it's possible that you're burnt out. The second one is cynicism. If you bring a sour attitude with you everywhere you go, if you aren't engaged or you're irritated, short-tempered, and detached, you may be burnt out. Or maybe this one, you're ineffective. If you used to be able to keep up with the demands of life and now you just can't anymore, perhaps it's true that you are burned out. And each of us feel that way sometimes, don't we? And when you go home after a day and something hard happened or something bad happened, and it's like, oh, I'm so exhausted, I'm so tired, I'm so worn out. But it's important to know this. Burnout is more than a bad day. It's something that defines who you are. It becomes a part of you that you carry with you in every circumstance that you find yourself. And if you're experiencing burnout or you have experienced burnout, this may be helpful for you today to think about how you can find yourself on the other side. Today, I want to take just a little bit of time and look at a story in Scripture with you. And it's a story that's actually, it's a success story. It's a time that burnout didn't happen because of a conversation that ended the stress that this person was feeling. And the person we're going to talk about today is Moses. You may have heard of Moses before. Moses' life was a series of ups and downs. Moses is the one who said, "Let my people go," and led the people out of captivity and into the wilderness. And though they were free, the people were not satisfied. In fact, they would say things to Moses like, "It would have been better for us if we had died in captivity." These people were tough people. It was hard to get on their good side. And Moses constantly found himself trying to win them over, but eventually he does. And some of these things are the reasons why. I mean, you've heard the story of the Red Sea parting, right? So they get up to the waters and the sea parts, and they advance in front of the army, and they find themselves in a good spot. And it's like, oh, thank God, God came through in this moment. Moses led us in the way that he was supposed to lead us. That is a good thing. God's also giving manna from heaven. But the food wasn't enough. They also wanted something to drink, right? So God provides water from a rock. And all of these ways, the people are being satisfied. Their needs are being met. Life for the Israelites is good. And that's where we're going to pick up the story today in Exodus chapter 18. Things seem to be going well for Moses and the people. Exodus 18, verse 1. Now Jethro, the priest of Midian and father-in-law of Moses, heard of everything God had done for Moses and for his people Israel, and how the Lord had brought Israel out of Egypt. So Jethro has a little bit of a vested interest in the success of Moses, right? Because Moses is married to Jethro's daughter. This is his father-in-law. Moses' father-in-law, Jethro, hears what's happening and decides that he wants to check it out for himself and see if things are as good as they seem, see if things are going exactly like he had been told that they are going. And so he shows up in verse 9. Jethro was delighted to hear about all the good things the Lord had done for Israel in rescuing them from the hand of the Egyptians. In other words, you kept the people safe. Thank you. You've done what God asked you to do. You have led graciously in this situation. And Jethro is thankful for what Moses is doing. In fact, Jethro is so thankful for what Moses is doing, he wants to follow him around and see exactly how he's doing it. There may be a question like, why are the people responding so well? These people could not be pleased a little while ago. What has changed? What are you doing? And so we continue reading in Exodus chapter 18, verse 13. The next day, Moses took his seat to serve as judge of the people, and they stood around him from morning till evening. I don't know what your work hours are, but morning till evening is not ideal for me or for anyone else. When his father-in-law saw that all that Moses was doing for the people, he said, "What is this you are doing for the people? Why do you alone sit as judge, while all these people stand around you from morning till evening?" He has a question for Moses. He says, I see what you're doing, and it's a good thing. Things are going well, right? But why are you carrying this burden alone? Why are you alone sitting in front of the people? Moses told him, it's because they need me. It's because I'm not sure they can do it without me. It's because they rely on me. And here's how Jethro responds in verse 17. What you are doing is not good. Now, hold on, wait a minute. Moses is literally doing God's work. He's sitting in front of the people. He's solving the problems. He's moving them forward. He's taking them from captivity to freedom. They're on their way to the promised land. And Jethro says, what you're doing is not good. You and these people who come to you will only wear yourselves out. The work is too heavy for you. You cannot handle it alone. Jethro has a message for Moses. You are on the way to burnout. If something doesn't change, you will not be able to keep going. But Jethro is one of those guys who doesn't just bring a problem, right? Jethro shows up and he identifies the problem and then he provides a solution. Verse 19. Listen now to me, and I will give you some advice, and may God be with you. So I might skip this part at 10:30 because my father-in-law will be here, and he'll be sitting right there. And what we have here is a father-in-law giving instruction. No, I'm just kidding. My father-in-law is a wonderful, wonderful man. But these relationships don't always work this way, do they? Sometimes the in-law thing can be just a little bit tense. And here's Moses hearing a message from his father-in-law that's not just this might be a good suggestion. He's saying, hey, this is what you need to do. Listen to me, and I will give you some advice, and may God be with you. You must be the people's representative before God and bring their disputes to him. I lost my spot. Teach them his decrees and instructions and show the way they are to live and how they are to behave. But select capable men from all the people, men who fear God, trustworthy men who hate dishonest gain, and appoint them as officials over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. In other words, Moses, there are capable people out there. There are people that you could bring onto the team. You could draft them. You could train them. You could raise them up. Bring those people along with you. Have them serve as judges for the people at all times, but have them bring every difficult case to you. The simple cases they can decide for themselves. That will make your load lighter because they will share it with you. If you do this, and God so commands, you will be able to stand the strain, and all these people will go home satisfied. Jethro's message to Moses is, though what you're doing is God's work, the way you're doing it is not good. And if we're really honest, most of us have some things in our lives that we could stand to use a little bit of help on, right? But instead, we want the credit and we want the glory and we enjoy doing it ourselves. And so we would rather complain about doing it than ask someone to help us do it. And Moses decides to live differently than that. Verse 24. Moses listened to his father-in-law and did everything he said. It's an incredible story. It's the story of someone hearing a different way to live and being willing to do it. See, there's some stories of burnout in the Bible. There are some stories of people who flamed out in the Bible. But this story is so unique because it's a story of someone who saw burnout coming and did what it took to be sure that they didn't go down that path. And so today, I want to give you some keys that may help you on this journey to beating burnout. Burnout is real. We saw that in some of our responses today. We ask you, what's the area you feel the most burned out? And it's relational or emotional and mental health. These things affect everything about us. My grandma had this thing at her house that hung on the wall, and it said, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. You seen that before? First of all, that's true. And secondly, our lives are much like that. Though we try to compartmentalize and separate all the different areas of life, if you're struggling in your emotional life, it's going to affect your relational life. If you're struggling in your financial life, it's going to affect your spiritual life. Everything affects everything. And so today, I want to give you just two things that are not easy, but they're simple to think about and consider how they may help you beat burnout. And why is that? Because this is our goal, to plan today so we can prosper tomorrow. Plan today so you can prosper tomorrow. If you're facing burnout right now, this is the place to start. If you're not facing burnout, these are the notes to take so that when you do, you can overcome. Beating burnout, number one, tell yourself the truth. So often we allow ourselves to believe something to be true that we know is not actually true. I saw a meme on Instagram recently that really sums this up nicely. It says this: adulthood is saying, but after this week, it will slow down a bit until you die. And I can relate to that, right? Because there's always that next thing that just once I get on the other side of that, things are going to be better. In my world, it's looking at different holidays, right? It's like, once school's back in session, things are going to be better. Once we get on the other side of the big give, things are going to be better. Once we get to Thanksgiving dinner, things are going to be better. Once we get to Christmas and New Year's and Lent and Easter, and the list goes on. And my guess is that you have the list too. And we live this way, constantly telling ourselves that things will be better, when in fact we know things won't be better. And because we live like that, this other meme I think is also true. Adulthood is straight up the worst hood I've ever lived in. Because we don't take the time to be honest with ourselves until we acknowledge where we are and how we feel. We simply cannot win. In John 8:32, it said like this, "Then you'll know the truth, and the truth will set you free." It's so true, and yet it's hard to do because we convince ourselves that things are something that they actually are not. You know, if you look at your life and you say physically, I know I need to get more sleep. I know I need to eat healthier. I know I need to exercise more. Or financially, I know my margins are too thin. I know that this is not sustainable. Or relationally, I'm beefing with everyone. There's one common denominator, and that is me. I need to look at myself. Or emotionally, I'm tired, I'm irritable, I'm unhappy. Or spiritually, I'm living on the edge. I need to be more consistent. We're honest with ourselves. It allows us to take the steps necessary to get the resources that we need so that we can beat burnout. Here's the second thing. The second thing is to fill your cup. See, these are so simple, right? But they're not easy. Just be honest with yourself. That's simple, but not easy. And then fill your cup. When we take the time to tell ourselves the truth, the thing that may rise to the surface is that our tiredness, our lack of passion, our teetering on the edge may have less to do with what's on our plates than it does with what we're lacking in our hearts. Here's how author Parker Palmer says it. Burnout is a state of emptiness, to be sure, but it does not result from giving all I have. It merely reveals the nothingness from which I was trying to give in the first place. A reminder that you get every time you get on an airplane. Because in the unlikely event that there should be a change in cabin pressure, 4 oxygen masks will drop from the compartment above you. Place your own oxygen mask before you attempt to help other people. You've heard this, right? Because in order to give something, you have to have something to give. Determine what refuels you, what fills your cup, and do that thing. How do you refresh? Only you know. Maybe it's a retreat or a day off or Sabbath or journaling or watching TV, or maybe some of you like to play video games. Maybe it's saying no to something or saying yes to something. Maybe it's going to bed earlier. Maybe it's staying up later. Maybe it's planning a vacation or getting up in the morning and planning your day, or getting up in the morning and not planning your day. Whatever that thing is, find that thing and fill your cup. Because until your cup is full, burnout will always be just around the corner. That's exactly what we see Jesus doing when he retreats from the disciples, right? He takes off and he leaves them because he needs to fill his soul. 2 Corinthians 4, Paul writes it like this. Therefore, we do not lose heart. Though outwardly we're wasting away, we're burning out. Yet inwardly we're being renewed day by day. We're filling our cup. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. So we fix our eyes, not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. Since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. When we started today, we asked you to think with us about burnout. And it's so interesting because as we look at those results, what we see is that 45% of us don't get the recommended amount of sleep that we should get, which is 7 hours or so. 53% of us feel the stress of our life affecting our body. And many of us, the majority of us, feel overwhelmed balancing work and family. We find most of our burnout in emotional and mental health, and we know that spills out into every other area of our life. And taking care of you and beating burnout is important because of this. Adele Calhoun writes, self-care is never a selfish act. It is simply good stewardship of the only gift I have, the gift I was put on earth to offer others. when we take care of ourselves, when we allow ourselves to become all that we can be, it allows us to plan today to prosper tomorrow. It allows us to beat burnout. Will you join me in prayer?